Having completed the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, I really can't see from the perspective of the people who hate this game, as I enjoyed it quite a bit. In my opinion, it's the best looking Elder Scrolls game, and that's because the color is beautiful, and I also like the old 3D textures. The gameplay is fun, though the fighting is ultimately pretty simplistic once you know how to exploit the AI, and it's a bit repetitive, but you can apply these critiques to most games with, real-time 3D combat. The platforming is great. Like, it's designed extremely well, and I really loved it in spite of the speed ups and slowdowns that occasionally happened whilst playing the game. I did, however, hate the puzzles and riddles, so I don't enjoy those aspects of the game. But if you do, that's another plus for Redguard. The reason I dislike puzzles in this game in particular are that, like a lot of the early 3D games with environmental interaction, a lot of the puzzles you don't even know exist until you stumble upon them. So that can be pretty time consuming and frustrating to someone such as myself who sucks at and hates puzzles. You just end up wandering around for however long until you accidentally discover that you can interact with this world object in this particular way to continue through the level. Always hated that in 3D games. The Shadow Reaver games are a great example of that. So many of the puzzles in that game require you to interact with objects you don't even know you can interact with. Like, there's no hint that you can interact with these objects. At least let me know that the puzzle exists and that these are the objects that I need to use to continue with the puzzle. That's all I ask for in these games, really. Oh, and not Shadow Reaver. Excuse me, it's Soul Reaver. Absolutely hated the Soul Reaver games. Anyway, the real highlight of Redguard for me was the color. I mean, almost every location looks beautiful, especially the realm of Clavicus Vile. I've never seen a game location that looks as good as the realm of Clavicus Vile, other than Earthrealm in the Mortal Kombat Deception Conquest mode. And it's a shame that new games are so washed out looking. They just look terrible to me. And I also really hate the extremely detailed textures of newer games. I actually prefer the simplistic old textures. They look cool, they're very stylized. I don't really want a game that matches reality perfectly. I'd rather a game be stylized and look nice. Anyway, people also criticize Redguard, not only for its poor performance on DOSBox, which is true, but also for the design of the platforming sections, and that's something I just don't get. I mean, there weren't really any platforming sections that gave me any trouble, and I'm thinking that perhaps the people doing these reviews just suck at platformers. I don't know. There were only a few areas in the game where the performance was so poor that it really hampered my ability to play, and obviously that's unfortunate, but for me it's not a deal breaker, especially since most of the time the game runs perfectly fine. Obviously it never runs as well as it did on the original hardware, but it's perfectly playable in DOSBox. For me, anyway. I had only a single crash to desktop, and it froze maybe 2 or 3 times over my entire playthrough. So it's actually a pretty stable game. The people who complain about Redguard's instability could never tolerate playing a game like Pyrrhic Tales Prelude to Darkness, which is almost guaranteed to crash every 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, I think it's just an issue of newer generations. I guess they're just more tech illiterate or something, I don't know, but they can't seem to get these games to run, and then also they have no tolerance whatsoever for any kind of performance issue. So that's a totally subjective thing. If you know how to get the game to run well and you can tolerate some of the technical hiccups, it's fine. As for the difficulty of the game, I'd say it's actually ridiculously easy. The game is so generous with healing items and money that you shouldn't have any issues completing it, even if you never become proficient in combat. But if you do learn how to exploit the AI, you'll almost never use healing items again. The only somewhat challenging fights are against Dram, and you only fight him twice, and the final fight against Richten is a total joke. You can see in my footage I accidentally figured out how to defeat Richten without sustaining a single blow. So overall, the game is extremely easy with a few moderately difficult sections throughout. I would say that the toughest generic enemies are Vermai, of which you fight only 2, and the Dwarven Centurions, of which you'll fight about 8. All of the Imperial soldiers and pirates have the same exploitable attack pattern, so they're a breeze once you learn what that attack pattern is and when exactly you can attack. Anyway, I loved Redguard. I would say it's an amazing game, even though it's not really my cup of tea due to the puzzles and riddles, but I enjoyed it a lot anyway. The platforming was extremely fun, and I had fun with the combat, even though, like I said, it is pretty simplistic and it does get repetitive after a while. The soundtrack was amazing, but there are so few songs that you'll get tired of them after a while. I would say that, yeah, Redguard is one of my favorite Elder Scrolls games. Honestly, I did like it better than Oblivion. I don't like it quite as well as Morrowind. But yeah, I do like Redguard better even than Oblivion. Definitely way better than Skyrim. Yeah, it's just a great game. I highly recommend it to everybody. Obviously, get the GOG, the Good Old Games version, and you shouldn't have any real issues with it.